I want to talk about the so-called group work or hands-on or whatever you want to call it, that are usually in the afternoons, except next week we have a couple of changes. But the thing is, this hands-on or group works are like this, and where? Let's talk first about the geography of the thing. In this place, there are, and now it's vacation, so there is no problem. So in this place, there are 3 rooms and a laboratory on the 3rd floor, okay? If the door is open, any one of them can be used, open and empty. So then there is a set of tables on the ground floor. If you enter from the elevator on this side, you cross in front of the library, and there you will see all these tables. Anyone can sit there and start working at any time. So those places can be used. Then there is this one, which will be also free in the afternoon. So if anyone prefers to do the hands-on or group works here instead of there, I mean, there will always be 2 or 3. Now it's only Carmen and Ulrike, so there will be 2. I mean, you choose the place, and from there on, all the hands-on and group works depend on the relationship with the lecturer. So once you start working and decide how you're going to work and what exercises you're going to do, you also decide how to meet or where you prefer, because it may also be that instead of a normal room with chairs and the blackboard, you prefer to work around the big table. So there you go, then you go to the place of the table. That's what I say. The afternoons are sort of loose, and each one chooses where and how. Okay? That's the point about all this hands-on.
But Ulrike and I have to go together to one room then, and
to which room?
For the group work. I mean, do we have to be there personally ourselves with the students somewhere?
The point is you decide
what they want
to do, or you give them different problems for them to do. Yeah. So you choose, for instance, today to start, you choose a room. You say, let's choose. I think that today there was a problem that the secretary didn't know where some of the keys were. And so you will be able to use room number 1 and this one in the afternoon without any problems. The others, if they find the keys, you can also use it, but I'm not so sure. Then everything is too sui generis, as you can see. Okay, so each of you chooses which of the room?
So you said I'm next Monday, so I'm a little bit surprised now.
Of what?
I have another duty today in the afternoon, I'm sorry. But so you didn't say that I should do this.
No, the point is, sorry, that's true. The point is the hands-on are essentially
student work
done by those who have already lectured, because, I mean, they have to know something about the subject. That's what. Okay, in that case, if you think that you want to do only hands-on expanding, it's all up to you. So, but don't worry. The point is, the afternoons are made for the students to start working on the subjects that are lectured. And they want to have, of course, the teachers as available as possible to ask questions. So then that's more or less I think I have to start writing a book about it. How these things are organized to avoid these problems. So then you decide where you may meet with those who are interested in developing what you have been talking about here. Okay? No, each student chooses whatever he wants to work on. Okay? So that's that's more or less how it goes. So the only thing that I ask from the lecturers is to be available. I mean,
Perfect.
it's not that you have to teach. It's not that you have to give them a particular problem. If you want to give them, you do. Is a question of being available for the students to ask questions. That's the whole thing. Then I think that now, but you have to choose in which place you will be. So unless you just want to move around and see where the students are. So, but I usually have noticed that most of the students, what happens really, is that most of the students really go to the place with the tables. Because then they get together and they start working. And they do work. And sometimes they do work that they publish. So it's not, they really work.
So room 1 has tables?
The tables are on the ground floor.
On the ground floor.
On the ground
okay, so I'll be in the ground floor.
So you can all be there. Okay. Is more or less clear? Okay. It's not very difficult, really. Okay, then we welcome Carmen Miguel from the University of Barcelona, who will talk to us on collective motion and decision making in the dynamics of social animals and robot swarms. Okay, Carmen.
Okay, thank you very much, Hilda. So thank you very much, everybody, for being here. And let me start by telling you that I'm a statistical physicist that these days is working on the topics that I'm going to cover on the lectures of this course. And I would also like to start by thanking Hilda and the rest of the members of the organizing committee, Albert, Mario, Marcus, and the ones that will come, for giving me this opportunity to telling you about our more recent work in Barcelona that has to do, as you see in the title, with the theoretical models, also experimental data, data-driven models, and even experiments with fish and robots that we do regarding these two topics. And actually, what I wanted to do in this course was to illustrate that maybe some of you are working in synchronization, which is one of the topics of the school. Some others are working on brain dynamics. I don't work directly on those topics, but in what I am going to tell you, I'm going to illustrate that those topics are needed, that are involved in the decision-making, and in the collective motion of those animals that we will be describing, such as fish schools, okay? So I think it's a great opportunity for maybe some of you, as Hilda was now trying to tell you, to get into new projects, simple things. Indeed, I am very much grateful also to Professor Ulrike Feudel, because she was introducing also the topic of dynamical systems, that it is something that it is there in all of these subjects, especially when you start describing the phenomenology, is the starting point. Then there might be, connectivity issues, networks, maybe fluctuations, these drivings that she was also mentioning in her talk, that actually all belong to the same disciplines. I mean, we are all there in the same thing, around the same things, but with slightly different applications, as you will see in the following slides that I have distributed over these 4 days. I prepared some material, it's a lot, but I thought that I was going to have 3 days, and now I have 4 days, so I have, some time maybe to be more slow and try to, go slowly so you can understand every single thing. I'm sorry, maybe some of you already know many of the topics, and it depends on you. If I get feedback from you, I can go faster, I can skip things, or I can go even slower than I had in my head to start with doing. Anyway, so this is it, and I think that I am not forgetting anything. I'm forgetting something. Yeah, I wanted to tell you that this is not a meeting. I mean, this is a school. So I'm really expecting you also to ask questions, and I really don't mind that you interrupt me. So please raise your hand if something is not clear from what I said, because it's not just that you are getting bombarded with information. I have also tried to add some other people's work to what we do, to have, for you to have a clear perspective of what's going on. But still, it's true that we concentrate a little bit on the things that we do ourselves, within our groups. And if something is not clear, I don't want you to stay there not understanding anything. I'm a teacher, so I know that happens. And please, don't sit there without understanding what is my motivation, what I am doing. Raise your hand, and I am starting all over again if it's needed in order for you to follow me, okay? My English is Spanglish, but I think that, everybody is here, is speaking an English with an accent. But if you have trouble also understanding maybe some of my pronunciations or something like that, don't be, scared, ask me. I don't mind. Everything is written in the slides, but sometimes, we improvise, so it's fine. And I have also prepared for you some little homeworks. I didn't know if you were going to bring your computers. Probably you all do these days, right? And then I have some, written, for today at least. I have some written calculations that you can do easily in the afternoon together with me if you need me. And then I also propose that you do some coding because, in this field you need to code, right? So for very simple things that we have done so far, for you to realize that you can do that yourselves. And then maybe we can imagine together new things to do, together, in collaboration. I'm very open. It'll be fantastic. Okay, so with that, I start. So I don't have to tell you, that as living organisms in general, humans, but also animals, insects, everything, they have to navigate constantly, through these dynamical environments, Here is not so dynamical, it's true. But if we go out to the street and we have to take the metro and the bus, we have to be constantly aware about what is going on around us. So dynamical environments that are sometimes even noisy, right? Most of the times they are noisy. And from that, us and animals, they have to actually be able to sense stimuli that are useful for what you want to do. Not only that, sensing is fine, but also be able to interpret, and then respond efficiently if you want, not to survive and not get trapped by a car or something like that. When we are not alone, but we go in groups, it's slightly different because on top of being able to sense, interpret, and react at the individual level, the idea, one important idea, is that it's nice if you are a social group of individuals that want to stay together, like animals sometimes do, to be able to transfer this information through the group. Because maybe some individuals are going to be more aware of what's going on because of their character, because of their position, and others are a little bit more absent-minded, but still, the idea is that we want to stay together. We keep ourselves together, as a group. So the transmission of information, as what happens in our brains, is also a crucial part of these group living organisms. And doing that, as I was saying, is crucial for their survival at the level of individuals, but also at the level of species. And in different scales, from very low scales, bacteria, insects, to the more macroscopic scales of some animals that you will see in my movies. So here I stole this picture, which is very beautiful. This is a fish school that I got inspired by this publication that it is on the bottom by the group of Ian Cousin, now working in the mass Plancking constants. So it's made on purpose because he's very good in publishing his papers. And this probably is bringing to your head already the idea of a brain, right? So there is this paradigm out there that it's true that each individual fish is intelligent, maybe not very sophisticated, but is able to process information at the individual level. But now the paradigm is that the group together is also able to process information and to capture and even to memorize information in the connections that are invisible at the level of this group of animals. So there are no neurons, no axons being close to each other, overlapping and sending chemicals. But these connections are facilitated by the fact that they can see with their eyes, hear, or even sense with lateral lines, no, changes in pressure in the liquid in which they live, and so on and so forth. So the way they are arranged, and not only, pattern formation, no, it's adaptive pattern formation is something that these days many people is going around at the level of a beautiful idea to exploit in order to understand, how crucial it is in order to, these superorganisms, as if they were a brain, are able to use in order to respond together and facilitate this information transmission and adapt and survive. That's the game. What do you think? Appealing, right? Beautiful idea. I will tell you more things about that. Anyway, so a crucial thing, I told you the environment, but the environment sometimes we think that it is not the outside. No, the environment here also has this social part. The environment is us interacting with others, right? And reading their faces. So these interactions that we call social in general, social interactions, of me interacting with others, is also a part of this game that actually triggers this complex behavior that we see in these organizations. And the fact that there are many individuals forming this group maybe brings the idea in the play, in this theater play if you want, of the wisdom of the crowds. How many of you have heard about this idea of the wisdom of the crowds? Several, maybe all of you. Okay. So this wisdom of the crowds is very nice. Well, first of all, let me just show you this intentional resemblance in between the figure before and the brain. This is a picture that I got from the Nobel Prize this year. Okay. The resemblance is there. So it's just nice. Okay, so I was telling you the wisdom of the crowds. So the wisdom of the crowds, if you go in the literature, maybe the first thing that you encounter is this book, that it is about some journalist. It's a journalist in the New York Times that wrote this the outreach type of very easy book, that it is speculative, and it's based on the most basic idea that was studied already. I'm very bad with the years, but maybe it was the 19th century by the Condorcet. It was a Lord Condorcet. It's an English, the jury theorem. So the idea is that how do you exploit the knowledge that all my social partners have in order for the group actually to make a decision, which is actually benefiting from the knowledge that all of the members have in the group. Okay, that's the idea. And at the very beginning, this theorem was actually demonstrated using very basic assumptions. Essentially, that these individuals that are participating in a decision-making, for instance, committees, members in a jury, this is not the original idea, were independent, completely independent from each other. And if that was the case, actually, what Condorcet demonstrated, and it's in the Wikipedia. You can go and just, this is first homework. Go on the Wikipedia and read about that. It is very simple. The idea, if you have, a collection of binomial processes in which individual will have good information with a probability defined by the parameter P, by having many more, you will have higher chances of succeed by being many that contribute towards the decision. But that's not always the case. You have to actually make sure that those individuals that are participating have good information or enough information. So actually they demonstrate that more is better, provided that the probability of you having good information about something that you are deciding is greater than 1/2. Otherwise, actually, it's much worse. And we are, constantly, being, witnessing the fact that many is not necessarily much better. It can be awful. And it depends on how informed are the individual and, what kind of individual actually are conforming those groups. So there are also many different problems that you can put, and several people out there have introduced modifications and to this very basic mathematical proof that you can easily do. That's right. Yeah. this is not addressed here. I mean, this idea of the wisdom of the crowd, you are right. I mean, there are many organizations that are hierarchical, and we will discuss those as well. But I mean, in this idea behind the wisdom of the crowds is not that you have all these committees that are made out of people that are very similar. So nobody is commanding all the others. So no, equal peers, no, that are actually exchanging information. And this is a little bit more what happens in some of these grouping living animals, no, in which, yeah, sometimes there are hierarchical organizations. I will speak about that at a different lecture. But today we are going to concentrate in this decentralized opinion, dynamics or consensus decision making, that it is valid also in many other examples, including this idea of the wisdom of the crowds. Okay? Any other comment? Taking advantage of the break? Okay, so please go and check what is this Condorcet jury theorem on the Wikipedia. I mean, whatever you find on the web is fine, so you will get to know. Sorry. Yes, I'm very bad with that. I told you. No, the dates, everything, I'm very much interested, but my brain, for some reason, is not. Okay, so very good. So we continue. What it is wrong about this type of very simple modeling is that they assume, as I was saying, that, I mean, these individuals are, contributing towards the decision process as if they were completely independent. So they are not biased by their social environment. And this is never the case, never, ever the case. Especially if we talk about human decision making. I mean, you have a past, you have a history. Even if the jury is selected in order to act independently, you are very much coming there with a lot of influence from the media, from your social networks, from your friends, from your education, everything, right? So immediately, these models, so simple, evolved into what we call nowadays consensus decision-making in social systems. And this is a very broad field of investigation that mostly has been focused also on the behavior of humans, but is very also applicable to what happens at the level of social animal groups, okay? So maybe you are aware of these models that are called in the decision-making models, such as the voter model, the majority vote model, the naming game. If you are interested more in variables, I mean, all of those models, by the way, you see in the pictures that are very physics-inspired. Why? Because the idea is that it's like if you had spins, like the icing model, spin up, down. So I have one opinion, I have the opposite opinion. It cannot be, it can be more than two states. It doesn't really matter. But the idea is that you have discrete opinions for something, and then you interact, because this is what is really happening with your environment, which can be social, it can be also some fields that have the representation maybe of mass media, whatever. And with that, you try to understand whether a consensus, which is like an observable, which will be like my order parameter, such as the magnetization in the icing model, is possible or not, and if it's possible, under what conditions or circumstances. And of course, these models, since the moment they started, they have, there is a lot of publications in the literature in which now the decisions are, discrete or continuous. There is this Defuan model that is also mentioned in here, in which you don't have to really have discrete opinions. You can have an opinion that it is a continuous variable that can be in between minus infinity, infinity in between -1 and 1. So my second homework today, because I'm not going to talk about all of these models, is that you go and revise some pieces of literature that I have selected for you. There are lots of papers on the topic. It's impressive. But I think that in the first one that you see here is some nice summary. It's not very long. It's just maybe 30 or 40 pages long. And actually, they introduce a little bit the current state of the art at the 2016, which is already late. But, I mean, it's by Vito, I know him very well. Yeah, Vittorio Loreto, who has also, contributed to the other, review that you have down there, but that it is a review of modern physics, and it's very long, so maybe you don't have the time to read it, not today. And I want you to maybe read about these models today, so you have an idea of what's going on, in this field. So there are people out there that are using several vectors, in which the opinions are actually magnitudes, let's say, that have different components. So it's not that you want to be, I don't know, friendly or unfriendly, or buy something or not buying, and that doesn't depend on other states that have to do with yourself. Sometimes these things are coupled. And maybe you buy one book depending on your, political ideas. So maybe another. So the idea these days is that, there are lots of models in which these opinions can be represented as vectors with different components, or as continuous variables, or vectors with continuous components. So many different things that actually can be run as if they were IC models, but not on a lattice in 2D or in 3D, but also on complex topologies such as complex networks. And these networks themselves can be static, adaptive, they can be changing. So it's a huge literature, but it really allows you and gives you the tools to study these processes and very nicely. And this is some open, I will say that it's still an open field of research in which you can, all of you, contribute with new ideas. Okay? So this is, I think that I summarized more or less what it is in this slide. If you have questions, this afternoon, you will have the chance also to ask them to me. This is mostly, as I was saying, regarding opinions and the dynamic of consensus at the level of the problems that humans have. Not so much emphasis maybe has been made on the use of these models for understanding the behavior of animals, but still not for animals. There is a huge literature, which I will describe in a moment. So let's start with animals. Maybe you have seen this recent paper published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science, PNIS, about this experiment, which is beautiful. I wish I could make it. With these ants having to transport this piece in red that you see there. They call it the piano cargo, the piano moving through a channel that it is narrow. There are the two compartments. The idea is that you want to put the red piece on the right compartment, but in the middle there is this channel in which this piano or whatever that thing is not fitting unless you do these strange maneuvers. And here I'm illustrating the attempts of this little one ant trying to do it on her own, so alone, not succeeding. That's what you have seen. So many trials, not succeeding. So now I'm going to show you. I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm spoiling. Okay. Again, I'm very bad. Okay. No, I don't know. Oh, well, maybe my computer. Now. So I just wanted to show you what happens with the more is maybe better. Here actually is reflected because this group of maybe 30 ants actually by trying, in the end are able to solve the problem and find what are the correct movements that they have to do in order to transport this difficult cargo through the channel. Well, it's not trivial. Come on. Who said? We also did that, and we evolved. And now in this paper, it's very nice because this simple problem, actually, they compare the performance of these animals that are supposed to be social, communicative, well-structured, and organized with us, humans. So in the following slide, as you see, they compare kind of the same problem now performed by humans, by us. Yes? The trial and error. Yeah, the question is whether, the fact that they find within a time window, which is finite, a solution, the ants, is just a matter of trial and error, repeating until they find out. Yeah, it's true. Very good. Let's do the experiment. I have fish in my lab, I don't have ants, but we can actually try to, I need people in order to do these things, but it's great. I mean, we do that and try to see, I hope that they are not making, fake experiments, hopefully. Well, we were discussing the other day about these people now trying to invent new things in order to get PNAS, science, nature. I don't know, I don't know them. But I found that, that this work, if it's well and consistently done, is very nice, because it illustrates that many are able to come out with a solution of the problem better. But it's not the end of the story. So ants are not able, well, they are able to communicate through these pheromone paths. But here in the paper, if you read it, which is another suggested reading that you have to do for this afternoon, I have a summary of 5 papers that you will need to read, maybe. The idea is that the communication here is mostly based upon mechanics. So they are attached to the piece, and they feel that the others are also pushing and pulling, and that's the information that they have about the actions of the other mates that are there. And they have to interpret that and try, to accommodate themselves around the piece in order to pull and push with more efficiency as time actually is progressing. But then, as Mario was pointing out, I go to the following, and if you see what, they also did that there with many more ants that are actually not really being, carrying the cargo, it's the same thing. Here there are many more. It's true that there are many more also that are very close to the cargo, attached to the cargo, but many more of them also out there watching and without really participating, at least mechanically or with physical strength. So my question actually when I saw that, and they compare, by the way, with the experiment performed by humans. And I'm going to tell you, in which conditions. So here, oh, sorry, I'm very bad with that, sorry. I talk. Anyway, so let's go back. Here. So the humans here, of course, are more efficient. But I have to explain to you what happens on there. Okay, so in the end, both groups will manage. The humans, we have evolved in order for all of us individually being able to imagine what we have to do. And we will be actually better, that's what they say in the paper, at solving the puzzle alone. Whereas, or in groups, but if the groups, of the individual in the group are able to communicate with each other, to really agree upon what is the next move to do. To communicate with each other, think a little bit, it will take a while, because everybody thinks that has the right solution. Probably for this problem, we will all have consensus immediately, and we will solve the puzzle very perfectly. But what they do in here is not allowing them to talk. So the idea is that they don't talk. They are not allowed to communicate. They just feel the forces that the others are doing in the carrying of the cargo. And if it's true that, everybody knew what to do, that will be no problem because we will all coordinate our movements. But our characters, and that's why I'm not studying humans, are very different. So there is always somebody that knows or believes that he knows the answer. And maybe others that are not so self-confident and that are more, drive to follow others. So in the end, it's a mess. If they cannot communicate, actually what they saw is that these humans are less efficient than the ants themselves in transporting the cargo, the time that it takes or whatever they measure in the paper. Okay? But 2 things that came to my mind when I saw these videos, as I was saying, is the fact that even in the left-hand side, you see many ants, and not all of them going there to help. So some of them are outside. Are they just doing nothing, watching and having fun of the others working, or are they contributing somehow, with their patterns, with their communication or whatever, with the structures that they are adapting to the process that the ones that are working are actually doing? They didn't compare with humans in similar conditions, because probably it make no sense to do that in similar conditions. But it's something that was something interesting to me, at least, that I noticed that it is different. And then also, well, the movies have played, and I don't want to repeat them back. But the idea is that the mobility in the ants case and the mobility in the human case was very different. So maybe mobility also is playing some sort of role. Because the ants actually go around, try different positions, and actually the ones that are around also are changing constantly their location, providing some sort of noise. Who knows if it's noise? No? What are they contributing to, if they contribute at all? So this is a wonderful problem actually to think about and maybe to even propose models about. They did already propose some models in the paper. Maybe it's maybe we can also come out with newer and nicer ideas. So this is what I wanted to emphasize from that, because I want you actually to take into account whether the structure, even of the ones that are outside, is going to be something that may be relevant. And also the mobility in animals is also an issue. They use mobility to do things, to communicate, to transfer this information. And maybe it's also an issue. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just inventing something that doesn't exist. Okay, so yeah, I told you already, they gave the Nobel Prize this year to the works of Hopfield and Hinton, which I didn't have the chance to really know very well. But the idea is that neurons, as also Professor Feudel was commenting in his talk, are using these synapses in order to interact, and actually you can kind of tune those interactions. This is the physics-based ideas that actually drove these people to do their work that has been recognized with the Nobel Prize. So the idea is that you can tune on a little bit these interactions that here are more chemically related, let's say, to have the possibility of recognizing, of storaging memories. So another thing that I wanted to tell you is that without the need of having this, necessarily this contact, there are out there many people that have now the goal in mind of trying to put memory into systems in which you don't have the ability of, having cognitive activity, such as in materials. So there are lots of people out there trying to storage memory in resistor networks, in flow networks, in even mechanical networks. I went to a meeting in November, and there were people from Amsterdam. I will forget. Anyway, doesn't matter. I mean, the name, it will come to my mind. So the idea is that they want to use some sort of foam-like materials in order to build chips, transistors, gates, and actually have the opportunity to storage memory in such structures that are matter. There is another field for you actually to think about maybe for the future. So the idea of having learning, especially memory, which is easy, in structures that are not intelligent at all. And there is a workshop actually coming maybe in Santa Barbara in the following year. So there are lots of people out there. There is a review of modern physics that I forgot to add in my talk, which is by Sid Nagel. And it's all about this learning, memory materials, memory materials. So here I just selected this paper, which is more recent, by this woman in, I think it's the Netherlands or Germany, I forgot. So I'm very bad with that kinds of aspects of memory related to things that my brain considers are not important. So the idea is that she is actually like in our in our flow system, like in our vessels in the body. They use these networks in which you have flow of liquid, like that. And the idea is that they want, and this vascular system, which is like a vascular system, they try to see whether, that is adaptive, which is not static, adaptive here from the point of view of that you have different channels from which that you can choose in order to flow, for the liquid to flow. Every node in this network actually has some flow arriving there. It's a homogeneous, let's say, flow background. And then at each point, you have fluctuations. This is then also nice thing, an ingredient. So you have this network from which, at each node, you will have liquid flow, that it is centering, let's say. And you have a common sink for everybody, that it is located in the middle, and the fluid actually will try to escape from that node, that is the sink. And they play this game. So the idea is that imagine that now you have a stimulus, something that it is changing in the normal operation, which is something that constantly happens in our body. So now they put some extra load of flow in some nodes. And they train the system under such conditions for a while. And then they have not the ability, this is something that in nature we don't know how to control, but in here they can control, to adapt the connectivity of the network in such a way that they minimize some cost, or they have some maxima of some gain function or something like that. So the idea is that you want to minimize this cost, and you need to introduce what is the cost for you. For animals, the cost will be that it is bad that you split into groups, that you actually you are not coherently moving or not doing whatever they have to do. But in here, of course, I mean, it's more material science, so the costs have to do with losses, and if it's something that has to do with electricity, it will be like the Coulomb or the ohmic type of behavior, that you want to minimize the losses due to currents flowing through these conductivity channels in which the flow can go. So the idea is that they are training under some change. They put some extra load in some of the nodes for a while. Then they remove that condition that was a normal, let's say, and they ask the question whether the system, after removing this extra load, this change that has been produced, is able to remember that before that happened, and that I had the ability or the possibility of minimizing the cost under those conditions. So you immediately know, after some training time, you change those conditions, you keep on stimulating the system again, in different ways, and try to ask yourself the question as a function of the time that it is called the waiting time that you have waited in between your training in these abnormal conditions and what you are doing after, whether you are able to store that memory for at least some short term, short time. And the answer in this PRL paper is that yes. And how does it do it? I mean, this system that it is not intelligent at all, but you have this control, this possibility of controlling from the outside, is that yes. So the idea is that the connectivity can be, as I said, changed as a function of time. And there are nodes that actually preserve very much this conductivity in the presence of these perturbance. But there are other nodes that actually shrink and almost disappear. So the capacity that they have to carry the electricity or the flow actually is diminishing gradually with time as a power law, particularly in the model that they propose. And with that, actually, they believe that they are integrating memory in this system. Maybe you don't see the analogy, but I do see the analogy, knowing what can happen at the level of these group-living animals. So here is no control from the outside that you decide which links actually are going to have a capacity that it is higher or smaller, and even you delete them. And it's in those links that actually have disappeared, and maybe they did it irreversibly, in which you are storing the information about what has happened previously in your system. Okay? So it is true that maybe there is nobody controlling the flocking of birds or the schooling of fish or the behavior of insects, but maybe then themselves, they have these trials and failures in attempting to change the connectivity patterns at the level of their sensorial inputs in order to do these connections with some of their peers, whereas concentrating the connections and the interactions with some others. So this is how I see it. And this is going to come also in the following lectures after today. Okay, this connectivity and this paying attention or selective attention to things that are happening around you, which is a way of incorporating the interactions in this type of group-living animals that are these networks that live in space, usually in 2 or 3 dimensions. Okay? More or less you get this idea. It's all new. I mean, it's true that it has been there around for some years, but I don't think it's solved. So it's a new field for opportunities of research for some of you, if you are interested. And with that long introduction, I know, but I wanted to motivate my talk. So I'm going to concentrate in something that it is more feasible, is what I do, no? Which is the study of collective decision-making and collective motion, because collective motion is a collective decision-making. So the fact that, I mean, my fish in the pool, no, where we have them, is going to move, no, in one way or another, is a result of a decision process in which there are some attempts, some fish that are going to do that first, and the others maybe follow, maybe not. Okay? So I want you to see that, I mean, everything is kind of connected. And as what was your name? I forgot. I want to get to know you, yes. What was your name? Camilo? Ramiro. As Ramiro was pointing out, it's true that, I mean, in different animals that live in group, there are different ways of organizing, of organization. From the more decentralized, which is what we will be discussing today, for instance, what happens in honeybees, no, I'm going to explain you something that is very nice, no, to maybe fish, no, that I have in the middle, this figure. So on the left, we believe that it is more decentralized or more democratic. Everybody is contributing with knowledge, no, to the decision-making process. In fish, after working with them, I mean, apparently it looks like it has to be also decentralized and also everybody contributing the same. But this efficient or effective, maybe more is the word, effective leadership, I think, plays a role. So the idea that maybe some of the fish are located in particular positions that convert them transiently in leaders, in the sense that everybody is going to copy what they do first because they have some advantages, more information. It can only last maybe for a few seconds. So this transient leadership is also an issue in animals, and I think that in fish is something that it is happening. And eventually, of course, you have the elephant thing, in which, as you were suggesting, there is a hierarchical of organization, and the wise older female is actually driving the group when they move around to find water or food. So far, this case is not so interesting to me, but it is wonderful, and it's also an idea to try to explore. In there, probably it's not so interesting because if they know, they follow, that's it. So it's not really, finding consensus. No, it's not about finding consensus. They just follow. Okay. So this is the field in which I work. And the open challenges that are related, of course, to what I have told you in my motivation are the following. First of all, it's very important to recognize that there are signaling mechanisms by which these animals actually communicate. There are different sources of signaling mechanisms. It is important to try to understand who, if any, at all, have more influence on the rest of the group because it's older, whatever, this information, effective leadership that I was telling you about. And finally, what is the relevance of the different communication patterns on which the information that one actually is achieving is transmitted to the rest of the group, and how that plays a role in the outcome, which is that we want to have collective decision-making in order to preserve the cohesive nature of the group. You don't want, as a result, like it happens in humans, that the group is splitted and that they go to different places, and that's it. This is the solution that most of these voter models and sophisticated variations actually have as an outcome, that you have clusters, polarized clusters, polarization. Animals actually are a bit smarter than us because if it's something important for their survival, actually they will have to come to the agreement, especially if they are this that we call social animals. Okay, and with that, I really start my talk today, which is summarized by this outline. I'm going to introduce to you one of these models that is very similar to a voter model-like kind of thing, but with some variations, with some subtleties that actually have to do with the behavior of bees, but that you can use and maybe control and propose alternatives to make it richer. Our idea here was, we want to understand bees, it's true. Bees are very important, so nice bees. But what we want to do is, if we are able to try to, if we are able to actually take our, understanding and modeling, in these systems and to put it into, synthetic groups of robots that are costly, very cheap or relatively cheap, not very sophisticated ones, such as the drones, that maybe the drones that the military is using are not that cheap. But maybe, no, I'm going to tell you maybe by the end. In the end, we are going to coexist with these robots. Some of them are going to be very sophisticated. Maybe some others are not going to be that sophisticated. And we are going to transfer our codes to those robots. And we want to coexist with them, and we want actually to have, nice consensus. For instance, walking together, in the streets. I mean, it's something that we have to agree upon. Why? Because otherwise it will be impossible. Driving together with self-driven cars. So the idea is that you also have to have consensus when we coexist with robots. And it's a very nice also field of research that has started already, in this century. Okay, so before I forget, I would like to thank my collaborators in this part of the work that are some students. Ezequiel is a permanent researcher in Argentina now, but he was for a while in Barcelona. And Romualdo Pastor Satorras is a professor in the Politecnica University in Barcelona. And these days we continue working with him because in the beginning it was just the 3 or 4 of us. But I want to thank them and also to thank my agencies. Okay, so let's start with this decentralized decision-making that it is inspired by the behavior of honeybees. How many of you know about the behavior of bees? And this honeybee Apis mellifera? Only 2 of you, so sorry for those of you that know. But the idea is that it is very nice. Now they face foraging every day. They have to decide where to go and find food. For that, they have scouts. But the most interesting problem is because it doesn't happen every day, so you don't have to have several people out there. It's just a few of them. Is the house hunting problem. So every year, just to summarize the story, the colony, unfortunately, has grown so big that they cannot fit all together in the same nest, and they have to find for alternatives in order to find a new shelter. The queen itself, together with scouts and other worker bees, actually go to a particular place that it is illustrated here in this figure. It's called the swarm. So it's a transitory place where they live for a while until the decision-making process has been finalized, and they all together, all this group together, will go to the new house, to the new home. Okay? The colony more or less splits in 2, and half of them actually have to go somewhere else. And the old queen actually is the one that lives, and leaves some eggs in the older colony in order for the children to continue. That's the idea. I didn't know that there are people out there working on that, but really, scientists. So I'm going to tell you about those 2, in particular, 3 people, 3 experimentalists that have been there for many years, trying to count and reproduce these experiments in more controlled conditions. Beautiful. I hope that when I retire, I'm going to do something like that. Sitting in somewhere in the countryside counting bees or something like that. Well, maybe something else. But this is the swarm, as I'm telling you. And don't think that all these many bees that you see there are participating. So it's decentralized, but not everybody is really contributing. So there are these scout bees. I forgot the numbers, but you see there are the numbers. It's 1 queen, 10,000 worker bees, but only a few, in between 300 and 500 scout bees. Scouts are the ones that are explorers, that will actually participate, first of all, in the search for potential sites. And then I'm going to explain you how do they do it when they come in order to make propaganda for the place that they have found and that they believe is good. First of all, I need to tell you that these bees, apparently, I cannot demonstrate it, but I believe what it has been published in the literature, are able to kind of assess the quality of the options. What does it mean? Well, the bee is, the hole that they find is bigger, more humid, a bit darker, or not too much exposed to the light, whatever. So all those things belong to what we call quality, okay? And they are able to assess that, and then they fly out and come to the swarm. This is not the beehive, it's the swarm. And then they start this process that it is called the waggle dance. So they have these signaling mechanisms, actually, that they use in order to make propaganda, raw propaganda. So everybody that has found an option that considers that it is good enough for the community to go on shelter there will come to the nest, to the swarm, sorry, and they will start dancing around with this dance that it is called the waggle dance, that it is very sophisticated. So the idea is that with the duration and the way in which they do what they call the waggle run, so I'm going to explain with a figure in a moment, they are able to communicate the orientation of the place where they want to go with respect to the sun and the distance and the quality. Three things. I don't care so much about the first two, but yes, about the duration. So the idea is that they are going to exploit what the mass media know for many years. Make noise, no? Shh. No, insist upon your whatever you believe enough so that in the end you are going to have the chance to win if you are more insistent and stay there for longer making noise. So that's what they do with this waggle dance. So here is a plot of more or less the angle of this path that it is in between this 8-figure-like. So it's supposed to be oriented with respect to the sun, so to give them to the rest of the bees in the swarm the information about the location. The duration of this middle part there, the duration of, sorry, the extension of this part here has to do with the distance from which, from the place where they are, to which they will have to travel in order to find it. And they go around, as you have seen in the previous movie, and they do it many times, many different times. And the longer, actually, they dance is because they believe that the quality of the place that they have found, the total duration of the dance has to do with the quality of the place that they have found. So they insist more if they believe that the quality is higher. Easy. The distance is indicated by the extension of this run that you see here. This is the run part. So they go here, and then they go around in circles. So the central part has to do with the distance, and the total duration of the number of turns that you do has to do with the quality. Do you believe that? Okay, you should believe it. Because actually, I'm going to show you. There is this guy here, that was probably one of the best experimentalists that realized that that was happening. And the first experiments, Frisch and this guy here that I discovered later, were the ones realizing that that was happening. And actually, they have data, it's something serious. But I'm not going to focus so much on the distance and on the particular details of the waggle dance, but on the duration and also on the mechanism. So afterwards, but that was maybe 19th century. Don't believe me very much because I'm very bad with the dates. I memorize them, but then I forget them immediately. But now, in the 20th century, there is this Shelley still alive, and another experimentalist in Stanford still alive, that they are repeating these experiments in set up conditions. So the idea is that he went to this island in Maine, nothing is there, and they built some structures that can work as this nest, in which the bees have the opportunity to fly together. And they control the process very much. They sit there, they mark the bees that are visiting the different locations in the island. And finally, they check, they put some food, or maybe it's bigger or smaller. I mean, you have to read the details in the science paper that they published in 2012. But the idea is that by the end of the day, they are able, first of all, to reach consensus, which is the nice thing. And not only that, but they reach consensus for the best available option. Okay? So maybe they do mistakes, but most of the times, they double check that, they are able to solve the problem successfully. So this is Tom Seeley, and he's still alive and enthusiastic of the bees. They mark the bees. So the idea here is that they put these experimental conditions, and they keep track of the colors of the bees that they mark in the different spots where they have themselves located the places. And what I want to make clear is that I am not going to put interest in all the details of the process, but in particular about two things that are, for me, from the modeling point of view, interesting. The first thing it has to do with the duration of the waggle dance that they use in order to have successful influence to the rest of the members of the group. And the second thing is that as a difference with respect to maybe other opinion dynamics models, such as the voter and so on and so forth, here the bees keep on dancing, but they don't copy the strategies of others. So they just simply gave up. After some time, they stop dancing and go to the what we call uncommitted state. So it's not that they make direct transitions in between the different states, such as in the voter majority mode. No. When they stop, and they do stop, so this is the mechanism actually that makes them maybe more successful, is that they just go to the uncommitted state. And they allow others to continue with this search and the dance and so on and so forth in order to have their effect in the colony. So you get it? So instead of just changing their mind, they go to the uncommitted and they become uncommitted. And if they don't manage with the others to find a solution, they will go again and explore and try to see if they have better luck next time. Okay? So these are the pieces of information that I believe are important for the models that we are going to try to study, and that what we believe that we can transfer to robots for them to really reach similar agreements and consensus. So stochastic models. The idea is that you can play a little bit around with these agent-based models that I was also going to propose to you to do as homework if you want, if you are interested. And what we got as an inspiration is this one that it is called the LESS model. We call it the LESS model by List and co-workers. Silly is the S of this model. And the idea is that you have these scout bees. They are not big numbers, as I told you, a couple of 100, 300, something like that, not big numbers. Several sites. It doesn't have to be 2, as I'm representing here. I mean, you can have several sites as options, but discrete decision problem, because they will have to select one out of the K possible sites, let's say. Most of the times I'm going to play with 2 without loss of generality, because then in the models we can check whether having more is important or not. And we are going to introduce at the modeling level this capacity that they have to assess quality and to advertise about the sites that they have found through a single parameter, which is the duration of the waggle dance, which is in turn translated into an abandonment rate. So the idea is that they keep on dancing, and at some point, when the time is on average of the order of the quality or related to the quality of the place that they have discovered, they will stop dancing and will return to the uncommitted state. So uncommitted bees are the red ones. They don't have any information because they are not explorers, or simply because they didn't find anything. And either green or blue are committed bees. This is the language that we use. Committed bees that have actually discovered places that are good and come and try to convince the others that that's the place for everybody to go. Parameters in the models, yes, there are some parameters, but not incredibly many. So first of all, we will introduce this pi here, which is self-discovery, and it's an attribute of the sites, let's say. So one site can be found by the bees more easily or more difficulty. Why? Or more difficult. Why? Because they are hidden, they are farther away. So all these qualities or characteristics are hidden into this parameter. Something that it is very far away is going to have a self-discovery parameter that it is smaller because you have to travel longer distances. So it's small and it's hidden. All this is encompassed into this independent discovery parameter pi. Okay? That is characteristic of the different sites in competition. It can be the same, sites of similar quality, difficult problem, the most difficult problem, or it can be different. And if it's different, let me introduce also the notation that the high quality site is always going to be the one with the largest number, 2 if there are 2, K if there are K, okay? That's going to be ordered in such a way that the higher quality site is going to be the K site, yes? 2 sites, 2 is going to be the best quality. Q is the quality, and actually the quality is just translated, as I was telling you, in this duration of the dance for the site. Just that. And I don't want to anticipate. And that's it. So these are, and then the fraction of committed bees, and something that it is going to evolve in time, and the total number of bees is going to be conserved. So the decision process, if you ask me, takes about a couple of days. It's not very fast. It's not very slow either. So during that time span, actually, the idea is that we don't have too many bees dying or not many bees being born, right? So you keep constant the total number. So this is something that also there in the model. Any question about that? Simple, right? So everybody will be able to do a model such as this in the computer for this afternoon with agents. We are going to do Gillespie simulations if you want, or just agent-based simulations, very simple for students. And this is what we do, okay? So this is, I think, what I have. So now, the relevant informations are already there. I told you, in the bee house hunting model, committed bees, the only thing that if you are already committed, the only thing that you do is dance. They are trying to convince others, and you do that until, some time that has to do with the quality of the place that you have discovered, right? This is going to be probabilistic, stochastic. So the average time has to do with the quality. And we choose our parameters in order to simplify things. And once the time has passed, you return to the uncommitted state. Take note, because this is the agent model that if you are interested, you are going to put in the computer. On the other hand, if you are an uncommitted bee, you have several possibilities that occur with given probability. Either you stay uncommitted because nobody is convincing you enough, or you are sleeping or not paying attention to what the others are doing. You cannot see the waggle dances, wherever, you stay there. Either you do that, or you commit to one of the possible options that are being advertised in the swarm. Okay? And you do that with probability P1, P2, and you can generalize. So it's very similar. And these probabilities have these pieces of information and parameters that I was describing before. So forget about the 1 minus lambda. So far, it's not really necessary. It's not very nice. But it was there in the original model, and we decided to keep it, to preserve it. But it is not necessary. You can call that pi hat. And that has to do with the fact that every bee is a scout one, that it is participating in the deliberation process and has the possibility of going by itself and find places, those places that are available there. So it's self-discovery. The first parameter is self-discovery. It's a probability, but it is a self-discovery probability. Whereas the second part there, it's independent discovery, is what we call the social interaction, the imitation of what the others are doing in the swarm when they come and advertise. Okay? And this is controlled by this unique parameter. Forget about, if you want, the 1 minus lambda. It's not necessary, as I was telling you. But this parameter lambda actually is very important and is close to 1 when you only imitate, or is close to 0 when you just rely on yourself and forget about what the others are doing. Zealots, all this language in the social models actually can be also represented through this set of kind of parameters. Okay, so good, so far so good. And then, of course, the first thing that we are going to do is using dynamical systems type of approaches, models, in order to see what happens. And later on, you can refine that, put space, and this is what we are going to do in the experiments with robots. And also, you can elucubrate and try to figure it out what will happen to this decision-making process if it was running in a complex network that is maybe something that is evolving temporally. So there is a lot of possibilities that you can actually consider. Do you know all about master equations? Kind of. Otherwise, don't be worried. This afternoon, if you want, we can write together the master equation for this particular problem that is very well set up. And still, now maybe I don't need to write the master equation from which I can actually calculate everything, all the moments of this probability distribution that the master equation is describing. And in particular, if I focus on the average behavior, I will just run out into a dynamical system problem in which I care about the fractions of bees that are dancing for either one of the sides or not dancing at all. And the probability of all these things have to sum up to 1, so everything under control. So it's very easy to write down these equations at the deterministic level, which include reactions that incorporate these social interactions, such as in the models for the brain that Ulrike was describing, and in the ecological models as well. I mean, it's the similar type of phenomena. It's all very broad scope. And then you have the opportunity, as you can see here, of uncommitted, which is the F0 there, becoming committed and contributing to increase the number of the ones that are committed to either one of the sites, according to these rates that I was describing above, with some probabilities that have to do with the self-discovery or the fraction of bees that are already dancing for any one of those sites, by imitation, which is what this term is incorporating, or abandoning and decreasing the number of committed bees for that particular site, with a rate R sub alpha that has to do with the quality, as I was telling you. So the higher the quality, the more they will insist, and then the lower the rate of abandoning their option. So, say? F0 is the uncommitted. So you can only become part of the team if you are uncommitted, because there is no direct transition in between them, as I was telling you, because the bees don't do that. Okay? The bees don't pass from state I directly to state B. They first pass through the uncommitted state. This is something that it is new in this type of model that we are describing. So the fractions are actually the numbers divided by the total number. Everything very simple, I believe. And from here, as Ulrike was telling us, then there is the possibility of finding stationary points, fixed points, stabilities, linear stability analysis. We are going to do that together if you want this afternoon, because I'm going to explain you stuff that is maybe interesting to you. Some of the parts, maybe not so much, but maybe some others more. Yeah? So these are solutions that we already have in our papers. But the idea is that, that you find fixed points and stabilities. First of all, we have to actually define what it is consensus, because there are many different possibilities that you can use in order to define what is consensus. The most usual approach actually is to say that if you have reached a quorum of maybe 80% of the bees voting for the same, after this process of trying to convince, going to the uncommitted, and copying and exploring and all of that, if you have enough quorum, then you decide that 80% is enough and you go. That's what they do in 2 days, essentially. But that quorum will be very much dependent on system size, right? Because 80% of 10 is not the same as 80% of 2,000 or 200. So yeah, it's not so nice, but many people are using those kinds of criteria. So what the experimentalists, Seeley and co-workers, proposed already in that paper that inspired our work was that, you should use a consensus measure, that it is a relative consensus measure. So the idea is that either you compare, imagine that you just have two options, so you have several, and you compare the highest quality one with the second quality one, which is what I do here. And you say that you have consensus when there is a majority, which can be simple for the high quality side, or maybe more strong, such as the one that we are going actually to impose. A strong consensus will be a majority of 2/3, like in the parliament. So the idea is that you have at least twice more bees voting for the high quality side with respect to the second one that comes in the list. Okay? If you do that and you assume that you don't have any bees that are undecided, which is very much to say, but assume that will correspond to a majority of 2/3, which seems reasonable, and actually is something that does not depend on whether you have too many options or on the numbers, right? Because you are always comparing the highest quality with the second highest quality, and you demand the same consensus values in order to finalize or determine if you are going to finalize with consensus the problem, the decision-making problem. And you see here just advertised. First of all, we pay attention to that, but also we are going to pay attention to the simple majority in which this Q simple, weak, we call it weak, is greater than 0. With that greater than 0 is maybe going to be enough. And also remember that if you have two options, the difference in between the two actually is like a kind of a magnetization, maybe for physicists, it's easy to understand this consensus as a magnetization type of stuff. Okay? So especially if we pay attention to the weak, but now we are going to pay attention to the strong for the following slides. So this is the type of consensus phase diagrams that you will find. You can do that simply by studying the deterministic equations or just by just analyzing your simulations. But it is true, I forgot to mention that so far, what we are going to assume is that we have all-to-all connections. So everybody knows what everybody else is actually doing. So it's a mean field type of approximation that we first implement, and then we are going to compare with experiments in which the mean field assumption is actually not verified. Okay? So this is the typical procedure for a physicist. And well, you notice maybe by looking at these graphs, there's a lot of information, I know, and maybe you're a little bit tired. No, the reddish part is where the strong consensus is not possible. The bluish part is where the strong consensus is possible. And there is a separation in between the two areas. But it's not a phase transition here, because I'm assuming that one of the qualities is always better than the other, so they are not the same. And actually, it's just a smooth crossover that is happening in the phase diagram. Okay? But still, I am marking that with a line because I'm going to explain you something that is interesting from the point of view of psychology. First of all, you notice that the area of the consensus is higher if you have only, well, this is for two qualities. The two qualities is just for the simplicity of me transmitting the results, but really, believe me that you can do it with more and you don't lose generality. It will be a competition after a while in between the two best, and the others disappear very fast. Okay, so if the qualities of the two sites in competition, that are the highest quality sites, are very similar, the consensus is more difficult, so the strong consensus is limited to this part here of the phase diagram. Here I'm studying the influence of the discovery parameter, the self-discovery parameter, and the imitation, right? The two of them are relevant. In this case, if you don't have self-discovery, usually you start with a system that doesn't have any preference for anything. So you need a little bit of self-discovery. It will be like the magnetic field that you switch on in order for one of the options, actually. But in here, what I am describing is a symmetric scenario. So the qualities are different, but I mean, we can play around with all these parameters, but here the qualities are different, but the discoveries of the places are equal. It's what we call a symmetric scenario. You can also play around with an asymmetric scenario, okay? In which one possibility, imagine that it is the worst one, is much easily found by the system. And then, the system will struggle more in order to find, to reach consensus. Because you put that information very often in the system because it's more easy to find for you the bad option. Anyway, so this is what you see here. So the higher the value of pi, which is also sometimes referred like a noise. You have to understand that. It takes some time because you make the parallelism with magnetism, and it's not that. So the idea is that this pi, whenever a B is going back to the uncommitted state, which is what happens in this model, you constantly reintroduce the options. It's not that the good option is just going forward as in a coarsening process. No. So even if you have a cluster in which the good option is imperative, let's say, still inside there are some sites in which you can reintroduce back the bad option. So this pi is like a noise in the system, which is not getting organized and suddenly it's getting disorganized again. So there is no line tension, things like that, for those of you that know a little bit better about the subject. So the higher it is, actually the higher has to be the value of the imitation if you want to ensure that you have strong consensus for the high quality side, okay? So it's bad to have really a lot of information. So one mechanism that actually the bees are going probably to use is at the moment in which there are several options there, already information, they are going to downgrade the importance of that parameter pi in order to facilitate the formation of consensus fastly in time. And this is going to have to do, I'm anticipating, with negative signaling and inhibition that is also happening in the bees, like in the brain. So some cross inhibition is going to happen there. And it's like inhibitory and excitatory. So it's very nice, this comparison with what happens in the brain. Maybe speculative, but still, I don't care. It's speculative, but nice. And maybe for you, yes. Say higher. Can you? Sure. What? What if? Did you get it? What if? Measures. Ah, I'm sorry. If it's just the fraction of bees dancing for any of the sites that are available relative to the total number of bees that are participating in the democracy process, let's say. Yes? F, the fraction of bees dancing for different sites. Sorry, good, good. Any other question? Good, continue. So I'm going slowly. Maybe then I speed up, but I think it's important that we get the point of the model because otherwise you are wasting time here. So another thing that people that are interested in this decision-making will look at is the time that the system takes in order to reach this consensus. I mean, time is just wasting of resources, so it cannot take forever. And the bees don't do it in an hour. They do it maybe in a couple of days, less than a couple of days. But still, time is an issue. So you want to also look in your models whether the time actually is evolving in such a way or in another way, depending on the model parameters. And as you can see in this figure here, this is just a phase diagram for the time. In different colors, darker will be shorter time, not very much difference, and lighter, much time. And you see that wherever you have higher consensus values, also more time actually is needed in order to reach the consensus. So you have to find a trade-off, where the time actually is not that large and the consensus still strong enough. So I want you actually to pay attention to this area that I was mentioning because I cannot stop talking. When the pies are not very big, around here, where the information is introduced in the system, but not constantly and very much, only a few, is much better because actually with lower values of the imitation, actually you will reach high values of consensus, and also you can moderate also the amount of time that the system will actually need in order to reach the consensus. Keep that in mind. Okay, so this is nice. And then at the beginning, we didn't pay attention to anything very, more than what I have told you. But we wanted to, play this game in our group of robots that we have in Barcelona. These kilobots, I really don't recommend you to buy them because they're very shitty. But it was nice to play with them to start with because their locomotion is not very good. So other things are fine, but the locomotion is horrible. So if you want to do things that have to do with motion, no. If it's for the decision-making, such as the one that I'm studying here, it's fine. And here I only have, I used to have, now I have less, 40 operating kilobots. And it was not a big number, I know. I mean, the bees are 200. I only have 40 kilovolts, but still. Yes? Sure. It's finished, yes. Yes, and you are going to see it also in the experiments. It's a fixed point to which you are attracted. And the only interesting thing in what I am showing you so far is that, this site that has the higher quality actually takes it all because the only stable fixed points that you have in the system is that. But if you are demanding a strong consensus, then it's a little bit more, demanding, and it's not necessarily, satisfy the condition that the Q parameter that I am introducing, this 2/3 majority is bigger than 0. But I did it, and you will see the reason why, okay? But from the point of view of dynamical systems, in here there is only one fixed point that is stable, that's it. From the deterministic point of view, and not for all the parameters values that you will see later on. So I'm going to have some intriguing until maybe tomorrow because there are critical phenomena coming in, fluctuations being very important. Don't think that this is going to be so boring and deterministic. No. There is really nice things that are going to happen. So the first thing that we did was just to play this same game with the kilobots. Why? Because we wanted to, of course, that was the intention of this project, to try to see if you can do that with robots and see whether they operate the same as the bees. But the robots are not having information, not these robots, of all the others' doings. So the idea is that you have locality, an interaction range that it is controlled by the hardware of these robots, and they only have information on what's happening around them up to a distance of 10 centimeters. I'm going to show you now. My arena, my robots there, we had to actually build these huts that are black Why? Because if you record something, no, they have these LEDs, let me go by parts. They have these LEDs that we use in order to actually tell us whether, so you can control them. First of all, these are very simple robots that you can really program, but they are not like computers. The idea is that you can program them in parallel, but you don't get back anything. So the only thing that you can do is then to keep track of what they do and actually track them, their colors, their motion, whatever. There is no returning of information back to the controller, no, as if it was a computer. That's the first thing. Second thing is that they are very noisy. I mean, they are noisy. It's not like a computer in which if you want, you put some noise that you control the properties of, no. Here, everyone, is different, even if they are built to be the same. So the range of communication changes a little bit. The way they move changes also a little bit. What we did was actually build this arena. Actually, we put our kilovolts in there, starting with some initial conditions. Mostly, we usually put them all undecided and see what happens. There are these parameters of self-encountering the sites and copying the others through the parameter lambda, the same thing that we did in the model. But you can only do that because they exchange information through infrared light. So they send some light, infrared light, that the other kilovolts are actually able to receive and process. And they can send signals saying, hey, I'm type 1, become type 1 because I programmed them in parallel with the same stochastic model that I was actually explaining to you. They receive the signals, they count, whatever you do. Yes?
That somehow they know exactly where it's coming because of the
No, they don't know. They only know that in the neighborhood around them, there are signals coming from other kilovolts in this radius. Yeah. I tell you how it works, if you're interested.
Stochastic.
No, stochastic, no. Other robots that have an opinion will send this light messages. It's messages that they send with the light that tell, I'm type 1, I'm type 2. And they have been calibrated in order to associate the intensity of the light that they receive with the distance from which it is received. So if the other kilovolts that are sending signals are very far away, because they can do that only within a radius of extension up to 10 centimeters, they don't hear them. They accumulate these signals in a buffer, and actually you can do statistics with that signals that they are receiving.
But they are receiving signals from, let's say, from type 1, type 3,
exactly.
and type
4.
Exactly.
Yes.
So how do they know which are those signals?
No, and they don't know who has sent the signal.
No, that's another
okay.
What I'm trying to
yes.
is imagine that this, because these different signals are giving different information. So they are somehow processing that information.
No, have programmed them to process only one part, only one information, which is, these robots will send signals only if they are in a committed state. And they have, this, how do you call that in English? Well, they have these little pieces of hardware, I forgot, that are able to send and to receive. So they have these pieces in the hardware. It's like a computer if you see them. I didn't bring one. I was stupid. I should have brought one. So they have like a board where you have these components, and they have sensors. I forgot that word. Sensors that are actually able to detect this light that it is coming when I have programmed them to tell the others that they have an option for which they vote.
Yeah, but the idea is that somehow all that light that they receive will
come,
make them change their opinion.
Yes.
Okay, so change their opinion. How do they know? Do they count?
Yes, they count.
They times of
yes,
they
count. Exactly. It's a program. It's a program. But it's a program that it's a program inside each one of them in parallel. I cannot control them. So I have thrown my program to each one of them, and they are actually able to do the operations that I have programmed.
But they can
Yes.
do some
Yes.
operations.
Yes. Very simple, processors, but they are able to do something. Yes. With noise, but they do that. And what we have actually programmed is if they don't have an option, they stay quiet, they stay at rest, watching other dancing. The dances are not sophisticated. They just go around like persistent random walkers because you cannot control their motion. I mean, forget about it. They will just go straight and tumble, no? Straight and tumble, and you can control these things, no? For them to actually go faster or slower. What I was telling you, they also have this LED light that will tell us, is the only thing that we can actually use in order to get information, what state they are in, no? Whether they are red, like in the model, blue or green, and count them. But you have to actually track them, no? It's not for free. I mean, there is not the computer automatically counting them, okay? So if you record them in the light, you can do that, but then you have to, be able to track, all the images in which there are lots of details. So we decided to track them in darkness. And even if you track them on the light, the idea is that if you want to record red, green, and blue, you will see, because they have metallic components, you will see the light reflected everywhere. So you look with the camera, and something such simple like counting red, blue, and green is very difficult, because red, blue, and green are on the floor, on the arena, reflections of the LED, and also on the components of others, because they have metallic parts. So we actually had to build these huts for them actually to be black and opaque. And we also take advantage of that in order to make the LED spot a little bit bigger for us actually to count them easily. This is something that not everybody is doing, no? So there are many papers really, on the kilovolts and similar problems, but if you are a little bit, go and look at the details, and you see that there are many runs of the experiments, but not so many people actually counting and determining things statistically with lots of repetitions and so on and so forth, because it's hard work, I tell you. I mean, it took me some time, it took us some time. They just demonstrate. It's nice to see the movies, but then they don't really quantitatively measure stuff, okay? Because it's hard. Anyway, so we do that, and this is a movie now with light for you to see, because otherwise it will be completely dark. And as Hilda was pointing out, they will go out, and it's not an instantaneous decision that they do. So at each time step, let me tell you what is a time step in here. They will actually count in the buffer how many signals they receive from other robots that are committed to the different options that are in the game. And with the same probability rules that I have defined in the model, I mean, they will do the change of state, or they will stay the same where they are, okay? That's what they do. But the idea is that they just have information from the neighborhood up to a distance of approximately 10 centimeters with some variation. So what we have actually introduced is not just a time step that it is very fast, but not very slow either. Why? Because if you allow them to integrate information while they walk and the others watch forever, of course, the mean field approximation maybe is realized, right? Because you have information available about the whole system. But if you just wait very little, it's always just your closer environment that is the one that you are going to see, because you are limited by this communication, their infrared signals, and they move slowly. I mean, you can control that. So the idea here is that you have one parameter, which is this time that you allow them to really go around and explore and advertise, actually. And it's actually set up to be of the order of a few seconds, 4 seconds, 8 seconds, because if it's very long, actually you have to iterate that very much, and it will be a never-ending problem, right? I mean, you will have this trade-off of the accuracy and the efficiency, that it is actually not very good, because it will take forever for the decision process actually to reach to the consensus. Did you more or less get the idea? So the idea is that for a window of time, delta t, which is not very big, you are going to integrate what you see around you while they move like persistent random walkers. And this is like integrating your communication network. So you don't have to really have a very crowded system in order for actually the information to travel through the system, because you are integrating, and then the communication network is going to be a bit more structured and connected than you think by just looking at this movie and seeing that you only have a few kilovolts there in the arena and it's not very crowded. Okay? Yeah? Okay, so we take advantage of that, and this is what we record in the dark, all these points moving and so on and so forth with a lot of patience. We have developed the tracking techniques. And then, yeah, finally, we see what is the effect of all these ingredients that we have at the point of, from the point of view of the experiments. And then let me just make the story a little bit short. So the idea is that we play with the qualities, with the imitation, the strength of the imitation. Didn't play so much, only consider two different scenarios, symmetric, such as the one that, like I told you, the two options that we have out there are going to be of different quality, but they are easily found, equally found, with the same probability. And then here I am representing the fractions of boats that don't have an opinion, how it's changing with this is the stationary value as a function of the imitation parameter. So if the imitation parameter is bigger, then eventually F2 is going to go up and F1 is going to go down as we expected. And we are able to fulfill the strong consensus condition only for high enough values of lambda. Otherwise, maybe you just simply have simple consensus or not even consensus. Okay? This is the message. And you can compare experiments, simulations, stochastic simulations, and also mean field results. And the first thing that you see here, maybe you don't see it because there is a lot of information, is that the results that we obtained in the very first place were very similar to mean field results, despite the conditions are not those of the mean field interactions. And we were very surprised to see mean field results in a system in which you have local interactions. Why? Then we understood, and it has to do with what I was telling you. This is for an asymmetric and the same. So if you have enough imitation, in the end, you manage to have a strong consensus. Otherwise, you don't. But why the mean field results there? And I partially told you the answer. And it's that we don't have that many kilovolts. There is no percolation, physical percolation of the kilovolts touching each other, and having a cluster that is percolating through the system size. No. But we have enough in order actually for the signal to travel on the system. Why? Because they move around and they incorporate the information and they have this integrated communication network for this little window of time that actually builds a percolating communication network in the system, even for fractions of boats that are not even far or not even close to the percolation threshold that you will have in these conditions, in this arena. Okay? So here I'm just demonstrating to you what a communicating percolation structure is like. So there you have one that it is disconnected, and then you can control with either increasing the communication radius. This is something that we cannot control because they are not limited from the fabrication, but with the number, yes. And we were working with numbers on the order of 40, which were very close. This is increasing the number of robots, but with the same radius, not touch. Then you will see that you are able to reach mean field results that are the results that you see here. This is mean field results that you get from the model. And you reach the same results with not so many robots, but of course, by increasing the number of robots, you eventually will do that. Okay? So not so surprising. We saw that by having a percolated network in which the information was able to travel from one part of the system to the other, we were obtaining results that were very much similar to the results that I found from deterministic equations in the mean field approximation. Okay? Not very enthusiastic, but still we did it, and we did a lot of experiments with different numbers, and we were able to integrate all this information together by changing different parameters. This is what you have to understand. Maybe, I don't know, how long can I go? Because maybe here is a good time to maybe stop, or maybe I can continue for 5 more minutes and tell you a little bit more about the Weber's law. Organizers? Yeah, we are late, so we go. Okay, we leave it here, and maybe tomorrow we continue. There's no problem. This is a nice result, but I will explain it to you tomorrow. No hurry, we have 4 more days, and then you have more time to integrate all this information. Okay? Good. So thank you very much. If you have any other question or comment that you want to address me before lunch, I'm happy, I'm here. Thank you. So, any question? No? Yeah, just a question. Okay. Any question? Any other question now?
Hi, Carmen.
Hi.
Thank you very much. Talking back about the ants moving the object, can you think of this as an escape problem, connecting with Ulrich's lecture before, where you have a mean time for the ants to remove the object? And if so, can you also see these as a noise-induced transition as well?
Oh, it's a difficult question. I don't think it's a noise-induced transition. I mean, what they say in the paper, but it's not my paper, is that no, that they encode some memory that allows them to solve the problem. They are able to encode in their organization around the object that they have to transport, in their ordering, in the locations in which they are attached to this load. They are encoding information that is short-term about what they did, what was the move that they did before, right before, in order to repeat it or to actually avoid repeating it in order to be more successful for the next one. That's what they say. So it's a process that they say is about learning. They are learning. It's not a noise-induced, no.
Yeah,
That's what they say. I mean, and
yeah.
they provide some evidences. It's a PNAS paper in which you see all the experimental results. They have also a model in which they put some hypotheses that are related to what I am saying. So go and try to try to understand it. Yeah.
Thank you.
And but I don't think it's just a noise, first passage time type of thing driven by that. No.
Okay, then when did you say that you will be here, or you wanted to meet?
No, I'll
with
be
the
here.
tables,
I'm going to be here for the time that the students are here. And I go to the place where the tables are, because it's easy for us to work. So I can teach you today, well, first of all, the references that I provide you. If you want them, I mean, I can send them to you through the organization. Second, I am going to teach you how you can actually, if you want, I mean, if you are interested in the deterministic description, which is very simple, how to write equations for the different fractions and solve for them. And in particular, in one limit that is coming tomorrow, in which the qualities are the same and the finding probabilities are the same, which is very nice because then we will face a critical phase transition, and it has actually connections with this criticality in the brain. So this is something that I'm going to teach you how to do, how to solve, how to assess the stability in that particular case. And if you want, I can also teach you, if you are interested and you don't know how to do it, and to build these models stochastically, so making simulations with them is so simple.
So you want to meet here or downstairs?
You tell me, I don't know the place.
Well, let us 2:30 here, and then everybody moves wherever they want to go.
So this is for
Okay.
today. Tomorrow, maybe other days, other people will come, but today is my goal. I mean, it's not very difficult. So for those of you that already know how to do these things, just maybe go or whatever. I mean, if you are not interested, I mean, I'm not going to be, upset or anything like that. I understand that there are many interesting problems out there, so feel free. But if you want, I'm
Yeah.
there.
Okay, the other thing that maybe is if someone is interested, for instance, one of the things that I may do, if other people want to do tomorrow in the afternoon in one of those groups, what I'll do is I'll give a short seminar on some of the research that I do. Okay, so if anyone wants, because since in this place, one of the things that we have for postdocs and people like that are postdoc positions that people can apply for. If any one of you thinks that kind of work may be interesting, so that's what we'll just come and listen, and then, okay. It's all right? If anybody else wants to talk about his work, just let us know.